Hey guys, I just thought I would come on here and just share a little update in regards to my healing process and where I'm up to on that journey from the sexual trauma that I experienced when I was a teenager. And I have to tell you, this has been the most amazing time for me. I know 2020 for most people will say they want a do-over and they don't want it this year to be done. For me, actually, I do not want to do over because then that would mean I'd have to go back and do all of the work that I've already been doing in the last 9 months with regards to my healing process. And so I don't want that. I'm all with the new year though. I just want to be done with this process. And I'm accepting the fact that it's a process and it takes time and that, I just got to go through it. But I will say that I just think back in regards to where I was a year ago, literally 1 year ago today. I was so filled with so much anxiety because I didn't know what was going on. And my eating was really, really starting to get restrictive. And I had so much fear that I couldn't even see myself ever being better. Actually, I didn't even know that there was a real issue. I just thought this was anxiety. This is normal. I actually attributed it to my hormones and thought it's just because you're, going through that change. But I will say, I'm happy to report that I'm doing so much better. I no longer am living in a state of constant fear. And for those that suffer with anxiety, then you know what that feels like, what that dread, what that scary feeling. And especially when COVID hit, it really heightened all of my senses and all of those feelings. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to go and get counseling and learn these techniques. Now, I do both. I go to counseling, but I also do my own research, and I pray a lot. I pray and ask God for direction, and He gives me lots of direction. And so for me, what I want to share with you guys today is how this whole connection between the mind, body, and the spirit and how they all align. And specifically talking about the body, I've learned a lot of things about the body. I've actually had to have some come to Jesus moments with my body. I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't realize how much trauma and how much pain and how much I exposed my body to, and didn't even think to say, I'm sorry. Or, tend to the wounds that I sustained from all of my experiences. In my mind, what I did was I just suppressed those memories. But in the body, what I've learned is that the body keeps its own memory. Every organ in our body basically has like its own memory. And when I was raped, my body obviously went through a traumatic experience, and it kept that feeling, the violation of it, all of that trauma in its memory, in its organs, right? In my mind, I was able to push the thoughts and the memory out and not have to think about it, but my body tried to push them down as well, but they were still within my muscles or my organs. And so that's why the anxiety started to come up a lot more. And I just am so grateful to God because now I'm able to look back and I can see specifically during certain times of relationships where I was triggered. And I know specifically where this happened for me. And I know that it was in my relationship that I had in 2013 that actually triggered everything. But I was not in tune with my body like I am today. And I didn't think to really think about what was happening or that it was causing problems, like what was kicking up for me. And so since I've been in counseling, now I'm able to go back and pinpoint and see, oh my gosh, I remember specifically this experience and it did kick up something, but I wasn't sure what it was. And now I know. And so it's just been a great experience for me to learn that I put it this way. I've learned that we speak languages, right? There's that 5 love language book that Gary Chapman wrote, which is a great book if you're into relationships and you really want to learn about your love languages, but also your spouse or partner's love languages. Highly recommend it. It's super helpful, even in just regards to friendships. 1. 2 is those love languages. There's also the audible languages that we speak, right? There's sign language that we speak with our hands, but our body languages, right? So what I learned is that my body speaks a language, and I'm good at reading other people's body language. I'm not good at reading my own body language and trying to understand what is it my body's trying to say to me, not to anybody else, but to me. And so this experience, I've had to go through some times of body scanning. I sit in meditations and I go through my body, and I've had to apologize to my body and say that I'm sorry for causing you all of this trauma and really not taking the time to protect you. So part of that also led me to understand that there was a reason why I didn't really trust myself either. And it was because of some of the situations that happened in my past. But this whole body language and how it speaks, it's really opened up my mind. And so there's part of me that is now working in this process of getting a full understanding, or actually trying to get my mind and my body to keep in good, clean, clear, strong communication. I think I said it to someone about how the subconscious mind is the mind that actually controls 95% of what we do in our everyday lives. 95% of what we do is done in the subconscious mind. That's not in your conscious mind, it's in the subconscious mind. And thank God, that is how God created us, to have this great mind to be able to do this for us. Because could you imagine if I had to I'm talking now, but I have to keep reminding myself to take a breath, to remind my heart to beat, to tell my hands to move. I mean, this is all happening in my subconscious mind. And so anyway, what I've had to learn is that, or actually what I wanted to learn, and I'm learning it. I remember when I started my counseling journey, the one thing I said to my counselors was, listen, there is a disconnect. My subconscious mind is not connected with my conscious mind, because there are some things that I was saying in my subconscious mind that in my conscious mind, they were like, what? But what I've learned is that in my body's way of speaking, they were exactly what the subconscious mind was saying. It's consciously, I was not thinking that. So for example, there was there's something that I was doing that was saying I'm not worthy. So some of the relationships that I've gotten in the past would show that, why are you with this guy? He doesn't treat you well. He doesn't respect you. And he's not, and I knew some of them, it's not really for me, but I just would stay. And so that speaks to me not thinking that I'm worthy, my self-esteem, what I value for me. And so in one of my sessions, my counselor was like, so do you understand, what does that mean? And so I guess my body language was showing something else. And I couldn't get the thought of it being me saying, I'm not worthy, that's what I was saying. And so we went back and forth for, I don't know, it felt like forever, but it probably was about 10 to 15 minutes. And I finally got it. I was like, wait a minute. Are you saying that I'm saying I'm not worthy? And he was like, bingo. And I couldn't believe it, because I would never think, those are words I would never say out of my mouth. I in my conscious mind, I don't think that way. But in my subconscious mind, I do think that way based on some experiences that I've had growing up. I think I'm not worthy to be with someone who is Prince Charming, goes out of his way and does everything and caters to me. But my body also recognized that too. And so I was like, wow, holy goodness gracious. We need to get everybody speaking the same language. It's my body is speaking Russian, my head is speaking, my mind is speaking Chinese, and I only understand English. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Maybe it won't, but for me, it made makes total sense. And it helps me to now understand, like, this mind-body connection, obviously with the spirit even more so, for me is super important. So I just go back and I check with God. I check with my spirit, like, what's going on. I know over the last few days, my stomach has been bothering me. I'm learning a lot about, the hormones that we produce, like the stress hormones, and a lot of the thoughts that we think actually are coming from our gut, are coming from our stomach. And if your stomach ain't right, then that's how come the messages that are coming to your mind and then eventually coming out in your body and your behaviors start doing different things. And so I'm learning, like, okay, so the last few days my stomach hasn't been right, and I was just like, what is going on? Like, okay, body, let's just check in. And now this may sound crazy to you, but this is how it works for me. I have to sit down and tell my body, okay, body, what's going on? Let's figure this out. Until I learn some other way, this is what's working for me. Maybe this will work for you. Maybe you have something else that works that you could suggest. But I'm just sharing today to let you guys know that the mind, body, spirit connection is so important. And I think, especially with where we are right now in the world, everything that's been happening, it's just, I think it's, for me, it had triggered a lot of things. And this time has allowed me to sit back and say, okay, what's going on? So now that's making me a little bit more conscious in what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And even the people that I'm surrounding myself with, I'm learning, like, okay, I need to maybe not be around that person because that person doesn't really align with my core values. They're triggering something inside of me. And then I'm also learning how to communicate to other people about what I am feeling, especially when something's bothering me. Not lashing out, but in that way that it protects me, but gets my message across, if that makes sense. So I'm super excited because I actually had tremendous breakthrough in the last few weeks with my counseling, and I feel like, I think I told one of my counselors, I feel like a kid that has just learned how to ride a bike, a two-wheeler. So for so long on this training wheel, on the training wheels, the mom takes the training wheels off, and then, you hold the back of the seat so the child can feel safe. And the child usually gets very, very anxious because they don't want you to let go. Like, don't let go, don't let go. And then eventually the parent lets go. And the child doesn't realize, but they are riding the bike on their own. And then they finally turn back and look and realize, I'm riding by myself. That's how I've felt in the last few weeks, because I've been doing a lot of sitting with myself in meditation, going through these body scans. One other thing that's fascinating me is that I've learned that some of the things that I do in regards to renewing my mind and changing the way that I think, they're actual, like, clinical words to explain what I'm doing, like it's a true practice recommended by the counselor. So, like, reframing is one of them. And so, so I just feel like I have now, like, riding the bike now with no training wheels, and I feel so good. One of the things that I've learned to do also, because I never allowed myself to really feel the good feelings. I was good about harboring those negative, terrible anger feelings, bitterness, resentfulness, which I never really thought that I was a resentful kind of person. I really never thought that I was a bitter person. If I have an argument with somebody, I try to just, resolve it and move past it. But my subconscious mind was holding it in, I guess. And so I'm learning now that I was good at holding on to those things. And what I've learned that's most important is that your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. And I have the power to change my mind, to change the things that it thinks is real, to flip it to something not. So one of the things is, I think I heard that excitement and fear, those are two very different emotions. They both feel the same way in the body. It's what you think, what thoughts you associate with them, or what behaviors, actions that you associate with them that determines whether it's good or bad. So I decided this week, I sat down with myself and I said, I want to constantly always feel excited. So I sat and I did some mirror work. I looked in the mirror and I told myself that I'm beautiful, that I feel so good, I'm so happy. And then I sat in meditation and I told my body, these emotions that we're feeling right now, this is what I want you to hold on to. I want you to hold on to this right now. This is where you're going to make the memory subconscious mind. And this is what I'm actually saying. This is how I talk to myself. Looking in the mirror, sitting down, doing this process. And I can't tell you how good it feels. I went from somebody who didn't really allow herself to feel emotions, like to cry was like a huge deal for me. Like it would be such a painful experience. Like you'd probably have to like punch me in the face almost, it felt like, for me to get a release of crying. And now I am all into my feelings, but in a good way, in a healthy way. And I'm always checking in with myself. So I know I kind of rambled on a little bit, but I just wanted to share with you guys that I am feeling so much better now. And if you are struggling with anxiety or panic or any kind of fears, or if you've been exposed to some kind of trauma, post-traumatic stress, anything like that, counseling helps. Speaking to God about it helps tremendously. I mean, he said that he would leave us the counselor. Hello, Holy Spirit. That's what I do. I call on him every day. And he has these men and women that he's put out in the world for us to be able to speak to and help us work through these things. Another thing is reading books. 2 books that I will highly recommend that I've been reading. Well, 3. Obviously the Bible, because I read the Bible every day. And then the second thing is, the other book was called what is it called? The Body Keeps the Score. It's like this thick. I call it my snooze book because I truly believe that you have to be ready for things in life. There is a divine timing for everything. And so whenever I try to pick up that book and I try to read it, I literally am knocked out. And I believe that happens not because it's boring, but I believe it happens because God is like, you're not ready for it yet. Hold on. And then, days will go by and I go back to pick up the book. Something might have happened. I go and I pick the book up and it's exactly what I needed to read to help me in this process. And so The Body Keeps the Score is basically a book about talking about, like I said earlier, that our body keeps track of the things that go on. The experiences that we have. We may think that it doesn't affect us. And I think that that's one thing that I'm learning about myself too, is like, I've never been this touchy-feely kind of person. I've never been this emotional kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just always like, whatever, brush it off, get over it. I was that mother that told my son, when he started crying, because he would cry about everything, I would just get so upset when I would tell him, I'll give you something to cry about, keep it up, but now I'm learning, like, though, that is not good. I know it's not good. It's not nice. And so I'm learning to be nicer to myself, but that's just the way I was raised. That's how I was brought up. And I'm trying to be nicer to myself. I'm learning to be nicer to myself. And so The Body Keeps the Score. The second one that I just started reading, which is really, really good, it's called Deadly Emotions. Amazing. I'll try to show pictures of them later on because I can't remember the authors of them. But those 2 books together, if you're going through any kind of post-traumatic stress, any sexual trauma that you've experienced, these books will blow your minds away. I mean, I'll tell you, the snooze one that I said, The Body That Keeps the Score, it's thick and it's a lot of heavy research, but it is good. It is good. The second one, it's a little bit easier of a read. It's only about 250 pages, not even, and it's just a little bit of an easier read, but it is definitely in line with what I have been going through in counseling. And so I just wanted to share that, and I hope everyone has a great day. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.